Welcome back to the UIA Trusted Partners Podcast. On today's very special episode, I have Julie Sanford, founder of Split Second Strategies. Julie, how are you today?
I am fantastic. How are you, Dylan?
I'm doing well. It's Casual Friday. I get to represent one of my many Hawaiian shirts.
You look fantastic, by the way.
I appreciate that. You made the joke when we first walked into it. You're like, wow, you're dressed warm for the season. That's the only way I can... Bright for the season. It's the only way I can feel still good, because I'm a big summer child at heart, if you couldn't tell.
Well, you look wonderful. It makes me feel like I was in Hawaii.
I appreciate that. And I also feel a little underdressed because you're very professional today.
I'm wearing
your
my
split-second
polo. That's all right.
Yeah, no problem. But I would love to dive right into this for the listeners who haven't had a chance to hear about this or know what it is just yet, or maybe they caught the name and they want to know more. What is Split-Second Strategies?
So, Split Second Strategies is a company that I founded. I'll just give you a quick little background. I have a background in law enforcement and security management. And in 2007, on December 5th, I was on my way to Von Maur to buy a dress for my daughter. And I was going around the little loop-de-loop in front of the Westroads, and I was getting passed by all these police cars over and over, just one right after the other. And me being a law enforcement officer, I knew something was happening. And so I went home and turned on my scanner and turned on the news, and Von Maur was happening. And it hit me at that point that when I found out that he came up the elevator and opened fire into the children's department, that if I would have been in there 5 minutes earlier, he would have been opening fire on me. And that just really hit home. I had 2 young babies at the time.
Absolutely.
And my daughter was young, and the other one was a baby. And I thought, one of these days I'm going to open up a business to teach civilians how to survive an active shooter situation if they're unarmed, or even if they're armed. There's always all sorts of skills that even armed people can learn from a training like this. And so I developed into active shooter survival, and then started developing classes on active shooter prevention, because not enough is being done to prevent these tragedies from happening in the first place. So I'm also very skilled in verbal de-escalation on the department. All the guys used to get mad at me because I could diffuse every situation with my mouth. So I started doing verbal de-escalation classes too. So we do those 3 things. We do active shooter survival, active shooter prevention, and verbal de-escalation classes, not related to active shooter.
Of course, but I love that this is coming from a place of passion. That's where it stemmed from. It's a place of care for the general well-being of all of us.
Yes.
Now, you kind of alluded to it yourself, but I think you did yourself a little discredit here. You have a Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice from UNO, 11 years in law enforcement, several years in security management, focusing on school and church safety, which I think is huge to play into what you do now. And I'd like to bring up the fact that you bring this all out of a place of passion. When did you officially get going on and open the doors for Split Second Strategies?
The concept started about 2 years ago when I was at a place of career
limbo.
Unknown limbo. That's a good way to put it. Career limbo. And a friend approached me. I'll give him a shout out. His name is Lucas Shook. He's a fantastic accountant. And he owns Shook Books and Tax. And he approached me and said, you absolutely need to start your own business. You need to start a consulting business. You are so bright and you have so much to offer. You should offer, security consulting in some way. And then it occurred to me that I needed to finally realize my dream of, I've always been an entrepreneur. I used to drag my little vacuum around on a wagon when I was 12 and vacuum cars for $1. I mean, I've always been an entrepreneur, and I've owned a lot of businesses in a very, very small way, a little craft business or a little jewelry business or
I love
things like that. And I decided, I have the skill set finally. I can pull all those skills together, with the managing of people and a law enforcement experience and security management experience. I can utilize all those skills and put it together. And I love to teach. I was an FTO on the department, which is field training officer. I know how to teach people. And I know how people learn. There's, 3 different ways people learn, the doing, the looking, the listening. This training pulls all that in together. not to diss anybody else's training, but a lot of the people that are out there doing active shooter training, they're ex-cops that just kind of, or they own a security company and they kind of do active shooter training on the side as like a sidebar. This is all I do.
Yeah.
It's my passion. Everything, I've put 2 years of work into developing this curriculum, and it's like Run, Hide, Fight 6.0. It's everything you could ever want in a training, plus a whole lot more.
Yeah.
It's all complete. There's nothing missing.
Yeah, and your website details a lot of that on there. I just wanted to give that a little shout out in case listeners are listening along. They want to go look and see what is offered, what kind of details are in there. Go check out your website and definitely see the 3 main things that you do offer. We'll mention those again. The 3 offerings for different trainings is active shooter survival training, active shooter prevention, verbal de-escalation training as well. And I kind of want to focus on that one to start, if I may, because that one to me seems not like the oddball out, but seems kind of like probably in some people's minds the last thing they're going to try to do in a certain situation like that. So I'm definitely curious if you could walk me through when it's appropriate to try to use that verbal de-escalation in such an intense scenario.
So we kind of focus in the training on 2 different ways to use it. Employee to employee or manager to employee, or like employee to client in a store. Mm-hmm. So you have an angry client on the phone or you have an angry client in a store. There's certainly some skills that you can pull out of your tool belt. So the verbal de-escalation class is just more tools for the tool belt. Okay, and it takes practice. It does not come.
This is not a one and done.
No. You know, everybody walks away from the training with a worksheet that they fill out, and I tell them, I said, these are things you have to practice. It's definitely a skill to practice.
I like that.
But you can pull those tools out of your tool belt and you can say things certain ways to calm people down instead of escalating the situation. So if you ever have an angry customer or if you ever have an angry employee and you're a manager and you want to learn ways to calm that person down before it escalates into either a physical altercation or even the employee saying something that they regret.
Just verbal altercations,
may result in their termination. You know, one thing comes out of somebody's mouth, you can't really take that back. You know, maybe we can avoid some of those situations. And those good skills, they're just so good to have even with children, with your spouse, neighbors, you know, angry neighbors. It is such a fantastic skill to have. And if you hone in on that, you're the most interesting person in the room.
Yeah.
Every time.
Yeah, typically. And I always feel like de-escalation starts with the person's body language.
Oh, yes.
When it's always like the old joke about food. You eat with your eyes first, right?
Yes.
Same thing applies in a heated scenario. If I'm coming up to you, guns blazing, I'm not going to be the calm, de-escalating factor. But if I walk up, I'm calm, cool, collected. Yeah, definitely. Some great knowledge to utilize there. So definitely check out the verbal de-escalation training as well. Now, this leads me into your other 2 trainings offered, and that was the active shooter survival training and the active shooter prevention training. I'd love for you to break down maybe the differences between those and how they help complement each other.
So when you look on the Split Second Strategies website, you're going to see different trainings offered. And I have most clients buy the entire package.
Of course.
Because it's all so good.
It is. It's great.
The 2-hour training I offer, the first half is prevention training. And that basically concentrates on important stats, definitions, statistics, things to think about when you see these stories in the media, why they inflate the numbers, why they, separating out the fact from the fiction on active shooters and mass shootings. We talk about that. We talk about the mental health. We talk about of the assailants, what might have brought them to that point in their life. We talk about crisis intervention, on how a business can implement a crisis response team. We're trying to step away from the term, in my business anyway, I am. There's a lot of new research out to step away from the word threat assessment team and move to crisis response team, because people are more likely to report if they're reporting to a crisis response team and not a threat assessment team. A lot of people won't report if they think the person's going to get fired or if they think the person is going to get in trouble, or most of the time if they have information they're close to that person and they have a hard time believing that a person could do such a horrible thing.
Right.
So they don't report because they don't think that person is capable of doing it. But if the company sets up a culture, they go through my training and they realize, hey, we need to set this up and I can help you do that. We set up a culture of caring and love, and we care about our employees. You know, and you never know who's going through what at home because people don't talk about it most of the time. And sometimes they just do things that they're at a tipping point. Yeah. And
they don't see any other options.
Most people that commit these types of crimes have, you know, they're not mentally ill. They're just having a moment in their life. Yep. Most of the time.
Yeah, they're in a point to where something's pushed them to...
We want to try to get people... I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Go ahead. No, I was just affirming that is usually in most cases those people are just pushed to a certain point to where all they can see is black, white. They can't see anything to discern rationality from not in most cases like that I've come across.
Yep. Once they see red, that's, you know, that's all they see. And so we can't prevent all these things happening all the time, but we can prevent most of them. And so recognizing that people, doing the connect the dots, knowing when to contact law enforcement so that law enforcement can come in and help. They bring in their threat assessment team and they decipher whether the person is a threat or whether the person is just making threats. There's a big difference.
There is a big difference.
So they can help with that. And so the training really helps with the whole prevention piece. And then the second half of the training is the active shooter survival, where I have developed my own curriculum. I'm just going to use my cheat sheet here because I don't want to, you know, falter around. But we teach people how to plan ahead for the situation. The believe and react step is what's unique to my curriculum. Yeah. I watched lots and lots. Every single time there's an incident, every single time. While I was developing this curriculum, I watched a lot of interviews from victims that were being interviewed right after the incident. And every single time, Dylan, what did they say? Every time they said, I didn't think it could happen here. Or I didn't think that this could ever happen. Or I thought it was fireworks. So believing that you're seeing a person with a gun walking up the sidewalk, believing that what you're hearing is actually gunfire and not fireworks, and being in denial, just that step alone will save lives over and over and over again, because it gives people precious seconds to get behind something that stops a bullet and assess the situation. So in my training, we do the believe and react as the first step. Then getting away and calling 911, hiding and barricading. In my training, we actually learn to attack or disarm the shooter as a last resort, if you have to save your life or the life of someone else. And then the important step of returning and reuniting to give statements or to at least check in with your employer if you can't return to the scene. Make sure you check in. There's been a lot of times where employers were beside themselves because they couldn't find Sally, and Sally was at home, you know, terrified and traumatized, but she forgot to check in with her employer and they didn't know where she was. Right. So just going through this training is just amazing.
Absolutely.
And so,
quite the plethora of information at your
that was a long
disposal.
Answer, but it
that's
was
a great answer, because it's a lot of information for people to absorb and to understand as well. That I think the believe and react step is such a unique highlight for you as well, because I think a lot of times in those situations, people kind of try to do the whole like, oh, that can't be a real gun. Yes. And like try to pull the whole like, oh, he's he's joking around. Like, because you had said people don't want to believe it could happen. They don't want to believe it's going to be them next or that situation that they're in now.
It's natural human psychology to be in denial.
Absolutely.
We can't help it. We have to be trained to overcome that. Yeah. You have to go through the training to overcome that. Yeah. Unless you were in the military or you have law enforcement experience or whatever. My company is tailored to the woman in the grocery store with 3 kids in her shopping cart. Yeah. Or the person that doesn't know what to do in a situation. Sure. They watch the news and they go, I have no idea what I would do in that situation. Or I don't know if I would freeze or if I would flee.
Well, that's a great point. I didn't get a chance to get that sort of question on here, but is that something that you kind of get in a lot of your classes of somebody going, I don't think I have it in me to, potentially fight back or do something of that nature?
Yes, yes. And I always tell people that the attack and disarm step, it's a ballsy step.
Yeah.
But if you had to, as a last resort, to save your life or the life of someone else, it's better than dying.
It's better to know how to do it
Yeah.
than to not need it than to not know how to do it and you need it. So I'm with you. I think that's such a vital step as well. Obviously, that's the last resort. That's not the first.
It is a last resort.
That's not plan A. That's plan Z. Okay.
Plan Z.
That is plan Z. After
Absolutely.
you've done all the other steps of hiding, barricading, you've called for help. Then, if any other case happens, of course.
And that step also takes practice.
Of course.
You have to, we teach you how to disarm somebody with a handgun, and we teach you how to disarm somebody with an AR-15 in several different situations as they're coming around a corner, as they're coming around your cubicle, as they're coming down a hallway. When can you do it without, with giving yourself a fighting chance?
Absolutely.
When can you do you would only do it if you're going to get shot.
Yeah.
I would rather try than to die, and I would never look at my children at home and I would say, you're not worth me learning this skill.
Yeah, I don't think anybody could at that point. Definitely. Now, part of what you offer is the barricading step. I've seen a lot of online things, what to do kind of stuff. Is a lot of that good information, or is some of that just bogus?
Some of it is bad, and some of it is good. I have taken all the bad out. I've watched a lot of trainings, and I've actually been an instructor for another type of training. And when I was developing my curriculum, I thought, okay, this particular training, people don't like this. This particular training, people don't like this. This particular training, people don't like this. There's a difference between, is it good information and they don't like it, or do they not like it because it's stupid, or it won't work? Point. The whole belt around the accordion door, that doesn't work usually.
I was like, those doors don't really operate.
Everything that I teach does work. Okay. In most scenarios, I've thrown out all the bad stuff and I keep it updated. So if there's something new that comes out, I add it into the training. It's constantly being updated.
Hey, we're a constantly changing world these days, so I love hearing that as well, that you're constantly adapting as well.
So I'm sorry.
No.
I talk about barricading devices, the devices that a company can use to barricade themselves in a door without adapting their hardware. So, what can we use on a door like this? This door locks from the inside, but what if it didn't lock from the inside? Sure. What can we use? What devices are out there that we can have hanging on the wall that we can implement to keep ourselves safe?
Yeah, I was like, fortunately, in this room, we actually kind of have a spoiling of pickings. We have a big, thick, heavy table with a barricade in front of it. We also have some thick wood behind us. Yep. And, outside of that, the chairs are probably the last thing to go on the wall. But, again, not a lot of other options in here, though, unfortunately. So if this table didn't exist, we might be in a predicament.
The best thing you have going for you is the lock on the door.
Yeah.
Most active shooters, if the door is locked, they keep on going because they want to kill as many people as possible in the shortest amount of time possible, and they're not going to try to get into a locked room. Yeah. Most of the time.
Yeah. Unless they're on a vendetta.
99% of the time.
Yeah. No, I get that. Now, of course, in your industry, a lot of tough conversation. Just to say, it's not needless conversation. It is a very important conversation. It's just tough. And in your industry, there's also a strange dichotomy of, you have a lot of gun owners and proud to have a gun on them and really want to defend themselves that way, and some that aren't going to be so much that way either. Now, your classes are definitely designed for, the non-handgun carriers and all that, but there's still knowledge that handgun operators can still obtain. And I'm just kind of curious if you can put that into light, when people should really, self-reflect to come learn more is, I guess, the best question I can ask you about that.
I would say if I were to speak directly to the concealed carry owner right now, the guy that's got 32 guns at home.
Pretend that I've got the
and thinks that he never has to go through a training like this. There's always information he can share with his non-gun owning friends or his non-gun owning wife or his non-gun owning kids.
Absolutely.
And you're not always going to have your gun with you.
Yeah.
What if you're in a bank or a school?
Yeah.
And you're not allowed to carry your gun? And my husband is a very, very proud concealed carry man, and he carries that gun everywhere, and it's great.
Yeah.
I think it's great, and I'm pro gun.
As am I. I grew up in the Sand Hills.
Handgun. The whole assault rifle thing, or I shouldn't say assault rifle. That's
That's another whole weird.
Yeah, I try to avoid that conversation seriously because it's so controversial. I am pro-gun.
Yeah.
I'm pro-gun. I'm pro people carrying a gun to protect themselves. And I just want to speak to that guy. You're not always going to be able to carry your gun with you. And just any training you can go through, if you're a gun owner, any training you go through, you're going to take away one or two things that you didn't know before. Absolutely. Or you didn't think about a certain way.
And I think one of the things for gun owners and handgun operators like that to keep in mind, not everybody's built to draw and pull the trigger. You might have it. You might have it on you and you might feel safe. Not everybody can unholster it and aim and shoot.
It's true.
That's just a fact of life. And, fight or flight is a real thing for a reason.
Yes.
So I just want to make that illusion for handgun operators out there. You don't know what you don't know. So why don't you talk to Split Second Strategies? Of course, we're with the founder, Julie Sanford, today. Now, we kind of alluded a little bit to it, some pushback in your industry, whether it's, people might ask you, why do I need this training? What's this? What am I really going to need this? Because of a lot of denial. It's never going to happen to me. Mm-hmm. But then you also probably get the question a lot of, what makes this so different? What's your training different from this guy's training over here? And I think we alluded to it a little bit with your steps here and a couple of your unique program points. Is there anything else that you wanted to mention in there that does help you separate yourself from the rest?
There's several things. Yeah. So the first thing is obvious. I am a woman. And
obvious.
This is kind of a joke, and to the listeners with tattoos, tactical pants, and muscles, this is not any bag on anybody. But I have sat through a lot of trainings and seen a lot of trainings where the instructor got up in front and had a lot of tattoos, wearing tactical pants and muscles. And I kind of have a rule. I have a couple of instructors that I plan on using in the future when we get busy. And I told them, I said, no tattoos, tactical pants, or big muscles up on the stage. And they kind of laugh. And, one guy's little and not big at all. And wow, I'm a perfect fit then. Yep. I don't want anybody up on the stage intimidating the audience. And what I have talked to many, many, many people, hundreds of people, and talked to them and say, I was really intimidated by the guy doing the training, or I was really intimidated. If you have, I'm kind of a chunky woman. If you can't see me, I'm a little chunky, right? I got a little extra, and that's fine.
Right here.
If a woman like me can disarm an active shooter, anybody can disarm an active shooter, given the right circumstances, given the right training, given the right mindset, given, to all the naysayers out there saying, I can't believe you're teaching people to disarm. Last resort.
Very last resort.
Very last resort. And it is a skill that you need to practice, okay?
Yeah.
But I'm a woman-owned business, and I teach from a perspective of a woman. And usually, and I teach the way people learn, and I think that's really different. Yeah. The other thing is that I am a no notoriety company, and this is a big deal. There's not a lot of people out there like me that will teach without giving notoriety to the shooter. Many, many trainings will be thrown together by showing videos of Las Vegas and Columbine and a lot of other graphic videos to prove the point. Nobody needs to, we all know that this is real. I will not give any notoriety to any shooter. I will not mention their names. I won't talk about their crimes because that is not necessary, and I will not give the shooter what they want. The other thing that I offer is that I'm putting together the classes online right now. And this is so exciting. I'm going to offer a low monthly subscription with unlimited access to companies that either have a high turnover or don't have a high turnover. There will be a flash class for refreshing every single year that you'll have access to. So you have to contact me and ask what your rate would be, because it is depending upon the size of the business. So for smaller businesses, it will be a low monthly fee. And you can have unlimited access to all the trainings I offer, plus the verbal de-escalation training. I'm throwing that in as a free bonus.
Nice.
For a low monthly fee. And then you have access to all the trainings all the time. So anytime you bring on a new employee, it's just part of the onboarding process. And then you are covered. We know insurance, right? You have to be covered, okay, liability-wise, because, can I talk about this real quick?
By all means.
There is, if you're a business owner or you work in a business, this is for you, okay? 100% this is for you. There's a new thing called foreseeability, where 20 years ago, if there was an active shooter and there was a lawsuit and a person got killed or injured in the active shooter situation, whether it be a patron or an employee or anybody, they would sue the business and say, hey, training should have been training should have been provided to me on how to, or you should have had a security officer at the door, or you should have done this, or you should have done that. And the court and the jury would say, nope, that was not a foreseeable instance. A business is not liable for anything that is not foreseeable. Mm-hmm. That is not the case. Hear me out. Hear me. That is not the case anymore.
Agreed.
It is not the case anymore. Every time a jury and a judge will say, could you have foreseen that an active shooter could walk in and start shooting in this business? And the answer is always yes in the year 2025.
Yeah.
The answer is yes. You have to provide is it required by law? No, but not yet. In some states, I believe possibly California and maybe a couple of other states are starting to pass laws that state you have to provide active shooter training to your employees. Also, I'm getting phone calls from businesses that say, I need training because they will not re-up my insurance until I offer active shooter training. So insurance companies are starting to say, I will not insure you unless you offer active shooter training. So this is a low monthly fee that you can pay to make sure that you're covered. It's like a little insurance policy. And on top of that, what's even more important is that you are providing safety and security and stability to your employees, and you're giving them a gift. It's like wrapping up a Christmas gift in a box and giving it to them and saying, here, I want you to have this peace of mind, okay? I want you to have this peace of mind so that you know what to do. Don't shove your head in the sand and decide this isn't going to happen to me, or nobody wants to talk about this, or this is unpleasant. It's time to face the facts that this is a necessary training.
Yeah, it can be unpleasant, it can be bad, it can be all of these things. It still makes it real.
It still makes it real. Let's just face that it's real. And I can provide you with a great solution.
Exactly right. So again, definitely check out your website. And for the listeners at home, that website would be
www.splitsecondstrategies.com.
Easy enough. You can't miss it. So go out to splitsecondstrategies.com. Look at all that's offered, because you're not going to be disappointed. There's also some good testimonial videos in there. There's some good reviews in there. Some good info all the way around in there that's free to access for people. So free. Go utilize it.
Yes.
Now, listeners kind of probably caught on to that you are offering these courses for different businesses, and of course rates might apply to too big, too small. I'm curious, what is a too big of a group to try to instruct, or maybe what's too small of a group to where it's just not relevant enough, or maybe it's more of a personal conversation at that point rather than a teaching?
So there is no such thing as a too big or a too small group.
I love it.
I offer the same fee for as many people as you can fit in the room.
Okay.
And I try to work with smaller businesses with their budget. I mean, let's be honest. I'm a small business. It's just me at this point.
We're all
but I plan on growing. I'm a brand new startup, 2 years in. And we're all helping each other. And so if you can fit 60 people in the room, I'm going to do the first part of the training, which is the prevention and the active shooter survival. If you can fit 600 people in the room, we're going to do it for the same fee.
Might give you a microphone if you do that.
It might be, you know what I mean? So I tailor it to, but the fee that you give is not based on per head.
Perfect.
Mutual of Omaha or whoever might pay a little higher fee than, a smaller business that's,
John's Tacos
that has like 5
kind of
people.
Thing. Yeah,
John's Tacos.
Yes, but I
absolutely.
love that. And I think that's important.
I tailor it to the business.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's important for listeners to know that it's a little more flexible. You're a small business owner too. Come talk to another small business owner and help each other grow. That's what Omaha is all about, I feel. At least that's what this show is all about, trying to help each other grow in the right way.
Yeah, and there's a second part to that question. So there's the disarming training. I can put about 15 people in that class. So I can put as many people as you can fit, and then the smaller classes, we can do about 15 people at a time, and if we want to put more, then I can bring in my retired Omaha police captain guy that I have.
Very nice.
Named Mike, and we can bring him in, and we can help do the disarming training together, and we can put more of the people through it. And then I also offer a walkthrough of your business for an additional fee. We can walk through the business with the employees, look at each workstation, give you guys ideas. I look at your locks. I look at your escape routes. We take an hour or two, whatever it takes. I just charge an hourly fee for that, and I tell you, hey, you should change out this lock. You should put frosted glass on this glass. You should you should switch out this. You can add this. We can use this barricading device for this. And a lot of people find that very helpful.
Well, absolutely. I mean, because I jokingly, and not just me, everybody jokingly calls their work their second home, right? Your office is your second home. You know it like the back of your hand, right? Well, it's important to maybe know if something goes south, what's the safest way to either get out of the building or hide in your second home.
Absolutely.
That might be a very, very powerful strategy to implement. So
and coming in with a second pair of eyes, they go, oh, I didn't realize that wouldn't stop a bullet. I thought that door was solid. It's hollow? Oh my gosh, I didn't know that. So, it's good to bring me in.
Absolutely.
And just go over all the things and just say, hey, this would be a great place to put bulletproof barrier behind your receptionist desk or whatever. Right. I mean, there's so many great things that I can offer.
Absolutely. And it all starts with a great conversation. So reach on out. Of course, we're sitting across from Julie Sanford, founder of Split Second Strategies. Now, we're getting towards the end of the interview, and unfortunately, this is where some of my tougher questions and some of my more raw questions start to come out. Now, we have talked about it a little bit, but it is, unfortunately, your world is heavily impacting towards kids and teens. It always feels that that's what's talked about the most. That is the hard-pressed issue that I feel is the glaring issue right now for it. Is there youth restrictions when it comes to your training, or is it kind of just, all appropriate ages are able to come, or some that can grasp what you're talking about, so to speak, when I say appropriate?
So I like to tell the parents out there that high school and up would be about the cutoff for my class. Now, it's funny you mention that, because after I get the adult classes online, the next challenge for me, I call it a challenge, my next project is I'm going to develop a middle school curriculum, and then I'm going to develop an elementary curriculum. And I used to be the security director at a small private school here, and I did all of their active shooter training from preschool all the way up to the 8th grade. And I did that for about a year and a half, and I developed a pretty cool way to teach preschool kids all the way up to the 8th grade on how to respond to and keep themselves safe during an incident. Now, I do not, there's a new research out there saying that the drills are doing more harm than good. So do I think that, drills should be done with kids? No. But should kids go through a little class to make them aware that this could happen? Yes.
That's a good way to put it.
Are there things that they can do? Yes. And I might not be the most popular person in the room right now if you're an educator and you're listening to this. But
truth is true.
I believe that parents need to be teaching their kids to be giving them permission to do whatever they have to do to survive a situation and just not go into lockdown. If you're in a school, it is my view, it may not be the most popular view, but it is my view that if you're a parent, you can tell your kids, hey, if you're in the hallway and you're near an exit and a lockdown is called and there's an exit right there and there's a lockdown going on, if you feel like you want to run out the door, give your kid permission to run out the door instead of locking themselves into that classroom. If they feel, if they're old enough.
Sure.
If they're like maybe in middle school or high school and they feel like they know, like in their heart of hearts, I need to run out that door, tell them they can.
Well, I think that's
don't have to. They don't. What are they going to do?
Yeah.
What are they going to do? Throw you out of the school?
Yeah, I was going to say, what are they going to do? Give you detention?
I mean, I love our schools, and they're in a very, very tough spot.
They are.
They're in a tough spot. But it is a very, very, very controversial conversation to have regarding giving kids permission to do what they want. Because you don't want a bunch of kids running for their lives.
And
but if you feel like you need to smash out a window and jump out the window, then do it.
Yeah.
You need to do whatever you have to do. But if everything is calm in your classroom and everything's okay, then, then it's okay. But, if you kind of hear those shots coming and I don't know, it's an individual decision.
Of course.
That everybody has to make for themselves. And that's what I tell people in the training is what you're feeling at that time, at that moment. You have to do what you have to do to save yourself and the people around you. It's an individual decision. And I teach people to think freely and not just do the whole lockdown thing. I teach people to survive a situation, not to just barricade in their office and wait to die if their door doesn't lock.
Sure. Absolutely.
So and that's what I teach.
That's a truthful way to put it is if, hey, your door doesn't lock, I'm sorry, your office is probably not the best place.
There are things that you can do, but sometimes you can't get out. And so that's why I teach the attack and disarm. If he's going to open the door, I show you how to strip that gun right out of his hands.
Yeah. Absolutely, and I think it is good to have that unique. Because I was thinking as you're talking and describing, to have that unique conversation with the individuals and just have that conversation. But I think back to when I was in high school. If any of this would really be happening about then in my area, the answer is no. I don't think anybody's even gotten close. Because I'll just give a little redneck detail here. Where I'm from, most people had a gun in their truck.
Oh, sure.
Like, we all hunted after school, and we all trapped things. Like, it just was a very common occurrence. Somebody had a gun in their truck. Nobody ever was like, I'm going to walk into school with it. But it does happen. It's a fact of reality. I was thinking back, I'm like, if I was in high school in that situation, and this is just me, I would not be going with a group of people to go barricade somewhere if I'm by an exit. Like, that to me... I was always the rational or the too rational kid that sometimes led himself into trouble because of it. I would have just bolted on the door and I would have been gone. And I would have probably gotten to a safe point, called my old man, told him what happened and, whatever would have happened else after that. But I understand, there is an importance for the schools. Like you said, they're in a really tough spot with this either way it goes because if you run and you do what I just described, if everything's all fine and they get the all clear and everything's taken care of and everybody's okay, they're now just missing somebody. And they have no clue what's happening.
It's
so tough.
It's a tough scenario.
Hearts out for the schools.
Yes.
We are not pointing fingers at you by any means. It is a tough
all.
world that we are in right now. Yeah. Now, you had mentioned before that you are developing some classes. I'd love for you, if there's any teasers we can maybe expect here coming up later down the year, just classes for just businesses in general that we can take advantage of.
Yes, so coming up in the next couple months, I'm going to be offering some free classes for business owners so it's maybe themselves and one other person from the business, as long as you're a business of more than you and the other person.
Right. Maybe a business of 5
If you're coming to check it out and you want to see, hey, do I want to offer this training to my employees? I'm going to be offering some free classes. So
I love that.
Please email me, Julie@splitsecondstrategies.com. And we're going to be offering some of those classes. And I'm looking into a couple of businesses that have offered up their locations.
I love that.
Actually, Outlook, Nebraska was one of them
that talked
Outlook. To me a long time ago and said, hey, if you ever want to hold a class here, let me know. And so possibly might have one down there on around 72nd and L area, F, somewhere in there. And so we might have some classes down there free for Omaha business owners to just come and check it out and say, wow, this is fantastic. I'm going to tell all my friends about this. We need to hire Julie to come in. And you guys, I'm going to tell you, I'm very reasonable. Yeah. I am a lot less money than many, many other people. And I started it because I wanted it to be affordable, because I want people just to have the training. To me, it's not about the money, but I do need to feed my family.
Of course.
Trust me, I have to feed my family.
There has to be a business component to the business, of course.
Yes, there is a bit. So I do need to charge you, but I am not as much as most other people.
No, and
it's a much better training.
Yeah, and as we alluded in the beginning, too, that this all stemmed from a place of passion to begin with. You were in a job limbo and you just had the calling and you had thought about it for years and it just finally came to fruition. Mm-hmm. So I want to reiterate that it is a place of passion that this stems from. Of course, business has to have business. You have to transact some money somewhere along the way. Yes. But it is important to invest in certain things like this to prevent or protect the future of your business, your employees, etc.
Absolutely.
So,
and I'm also going to be offering some individual classes so that just the individual can come and pay like a flat fee,
and come get some great info.
in with your high schooler, or, I might have like a family day where, bring the whole family and we'll do some training or we'll talk about it or whatever, and we'll have like a flat family fee. It's wide open. I'm making all the decisions, and
of course
I call the shots, so I can do whatever I want.
Yeah,
right?
You're the founder. You can do what you want. Of course, Julie's information is in the description down below. Be sure you are like, comment, and subscribe on this one, because I do want you to comment down below. Maybe some thoughts that you've had throughout the episode. Maybe some things that you'd like to ask Julie. By all means, comment them down below. Her details down below, so if you want to email direct or check out their website, that's all in the description right now. Now, I am curious. Challenges in your world, I mean, take a pick, I'm sure, but I am a little more curious. What's been something that's been either really challenging that you've had to overcome for split-second strategies, or maybe something just from that 2 years of building this up, maybe just something along the way that was just a challenge to get through, but you're happy you did?
Just starting the business has been a huge victory for me.
That's huge, and that's totally fair.
Finance, this is not a cheap venture to, I hired a video production company. I'll give a shout out to Mo Valley Productions at this point. Mo Valley Productions did a phenomenal job. We hired them to come in and professionally shoot the video series that I use. And I insisted on that because some other trainings that I have seen have borrowed videos from the government or borrowed videos from like the healthcare industry, and there's always something wrong. I can always look at those videos and go, why are you hiding there? You shouldn't hide there. You should hide over here. And,
the guy hiding in the trash can, like, what are you doing?
If I'm going to use a video series in my training, I'm going to shoot my own. So we hired Mo Valley, and that was just fantastic. But obviously, I would love to shoot a video series for the middle school and the elementary, like in a school setting. That will be a challenge. Finding a school that will let me do it, and coming up with the fundage for that. So
and then hurting the
challenge.
cats, aka the children. No, that will be a challenge, and hurting cats, aka children, is always so fun, especially when you have to do a video. I had no experience of that one, but I wish you the best on that, because I do think that that's going to be super, super cool. That you're going to hopefully be able to find a school that's going to allow this type of work, and B, just it's so much more impactful when people can understand and correlate to something in their back door, like an Omaha school, like a Lincoln school, something to that nature. It's way easier to correlate when it's personal rather than, like you alluded to, the government videos or I love the old timey ones too, of like the whole and duck and cover. Just, it's like the whole old timey spiel. I always joke that those are the videos you always get kind of thing, even though they've been updated, but it still feels that way sometimes. Yes. But no, I do love it. And I love that split second strategies is on its own level because of how many different unique strategies you implement, how you go about teaching it, that it's not some jacked dude up there telling you how you can do this. And it's just not in you to really do it because he's got 58 pounds of muscle on you and you don't have that. So I love that it is one of those, it's approachable, it's palatable, and it's appropriate for mostly all ages. It will be, hopefully soon. I am very curious, being in split-second strategies and being such a unique industry, what is something you'd like listeners to either know more about, either when it comes to split-second strategies or about the active shooter training industry in general?
I guess at this point, I just want to just invite people just to give me a call or to give me an email. Shoot me an email. Let's have coffee. Let's answer your questions about what you have, because everybody always has a lot of questions.
There's always going to be random ones.
How they're going to implement this into their business and how they're going to get their boss to, they want it, but, how do they get all the layers of management to sign on and, that sort of a thing. Mm-hmm. And so...
yeah, it's great to always start.
Give me a call and we'll have coffee and...
have a coffee with the founder of Split Second Strategies, Julie Sanford. Julie, I think that about wraps up all of my business questions here for you, my burning business questions. Now we're flipping the side of the coin over to the personal side. I always jokingly call this the dessert of the show, so people remember it. It's the last thing, right?
Dessert.
Yeah, and of course... I always jokingly talk about winter and how much I hate it. But you and I were kind of talking a little off air, and you have something really cool coming up. And I wanted you to kind of just take the spot and just run with that, because there is something very cool that we were talking about coming up. And I don't think you said this year, it's actually next year. Mm-hmm. What is it and what can we expect?
So I have recently got back into the sport of cycling.
Woo!
25 years ago, I took a little 25-year hiatus. A really, really great long story about that we will not go into today. But I have recently taken back up cycling.
I love that.
I decided I wanted to ride my bike across the United States, carrying my own gear. So I got into a Facebook group called Women's Bike Packing, and I asked if anybody wanted to go with me, and I had 307 women respond that they wanted to go with me. So we're in the process of doing monthly Zoom calls, paring that down because there's no way that all of us can go. But
sure,
as the months go by, we've 6 months in the planning now. We've been doing this monthly Zoom calls, and we have route planners, and we have committees set up, and we have people negotiating camping rates, and it's become quite the ordeal. And I am just so incredibly proud that I'm leading this group of women. They're from all over the world, bunch from Australia, couple from New Zealand, we got people from Japan and China. It's just, they're all over the place. Mongolia, they're from all over the place. And their dream is to ride across the United States. So I'm taking all the women that want to have a dream to ride across the United States, and we're making it happen.
I love it. And when you have those start and end points all figured out, and maybe if you have a little more detail all planned out, you're more than welcome to come back on the show later this year and kind of announce some of that if you want.
Oh, fun. Yes,
yeah,
that would
it'd be fun times.
We're riding West Coast to East Coast in the summer of 2026.
Well, best of luck and safest of riding and cycling.
Thank you.
And for all of you drivers out there, be watching. Don't be running over cyclists.
That's right. That's right.
From the
Get off those phones. Get off those phones.
Exactly.
Pay attention.
Oh, it's rampant anymore. Now, I love to ask folks across from me, what is your Mount Rushmore of Omaha? Now, that's such a broad question. I like to kind of boil it down a little bit more than that. If I'm a listener, I'm coming in from out of town, what are some spots here in Omaha that you like to recommend?
Oh, there is one in particular that I absolutely love, and it's the Skate Ribbon downtown.
Love it.
They have roller skating in the spring and the summer and in the fall, and in the winter, they ice that sucker up and they turn it into an ice skating skate ribbon, and it is so fun. And it's like $10 to go, or maybe it's like $5. It's like $5 or $10, and it's the shape of a figure 8, and they play music, and there's lights, and you can just go down there and ice skate with your friends, and it's so fun. It's such a great part of Omaha, and it's such a great addition.
That is actually a unique one. I don't think I've had a guest on the show mention that yet, so kudos to you for a unique answer on that one, because it's always the zoo. Everybody loves the zoo.
Well, I love the zoo. Yes.
Everybody loves the zoo because it's awesome. It's the #1 zoo for a reason. It's a phenomenal place.
It is.
I still have to confirm. I have not confirmed this yet, but I have heard rumor mills that the polar bears are coming back.
I hope so.
I do too. I've heard rumor mill, but I haven't been able to confirm anything.
The polar bears. Do you remember that one polar bear that used to put his foot against the wall and push off, and then push off, and then push off the little...
Yep. I remember going to see him.
He used to swim on his back. Yeah. He was so sweet.
They'd throw him pumpkins in the water during summer, watermelons and stuff, and oh my gosh, they're so fun. Love, love, love the zoo. Of course, that is one of Omaha's brightest points.
Brightest. And speaking of brightest, the Luminarium is also a good place to visit.
Very, very cool place, and very, very welcoming to all age. Yes. Really, it's actually
There's
really cool.
There's something to do for everybody.
Yeah.
And the Durham Museum, I went there. That's amazing. The Durham Museum is incredible.
I haven't visited that in a long time. Durham is on my list to get back to and go visit. But so many places in Omaha.
There are a lot. It is a long list. There are tons of places you can go.
I feel like the joke of Santa Claus rolling out the naughty list, that's the places in Omaha to go check out. You open the list and it just rolls and keeps going. But lots of amazing things here in Omaha. Well, speaking of that, what's something here in Omaha that you kind of wish either more people knew about, or maybe they just supported more?
Definitely, my answer on that would be NICA. So it's the National Interscholastic Cycling League.
Okay.
It is mountain bike racing for middle school kids and high school kids. So I did my first century, which is 100 miles in a day, when I was 10. I got recruited onto a bike racing team when I was 15, started racing mountain bikes when I was 21, and there was nothing like that in place. So now there is. There was no support for kids that were into these alternate sports back then, these X Games type of stuff. There is a group called the NICL, Nebraska Interscholastic Cycling League. Okay, so there's a National Interscholastic Cycling League, but
we have a
NICL, we have a Nebraska one. You should interview Bree.
I'd love to have her on.
She's incredible. She's really great. She's the director, the local director.
I'd love to have her on.
And so I'm a coach. I started the team in Bennington along with Brandon Crow, he's the head coach, and I'm the team director. And so Bennington now has a mountain bike racing team for kids.
That's so fun.
There's a team for Elkhorn. There's a team for Westside. There's a team for There's just an Omaha team. There's a whole bunch of teams all around. And we're teaching kids, getting more kids on bikes, getting them away from those electronics, teaching them these great skills and getting them outside on the trails. And it is just a phenomenal organization.
That sounds awesome.
Love it.
I'm in on it because I am a big proponent. I did love, all the alternative sports as well. I played football and basketball because I have the size, stature for it. Not everybody does. Mm-hmm. But I did love kind of those unique sports, but never had a clear outlet for it or never had a way to even engage with it where I was from. Yes. I think knowing that and having that information is phenomenal. And I would love to have Bree on the show. She is more than welcome to come and talk all about them, what they do, and what they can offer for kids, because that's awesome.
I will hook you guys up.
Yes, please do. Now, that does wrap up my entire show today. I know.
But I like you, Dylan. You're fun to talk to.
We've had a great time. Well, I appreciate that, Julie, but if I kept you all day, I don't think either one of us would get much done.
No, I have things to do.
Unfortunately,
I have online video classes to work on.
You do, and I've unfortunately got some quotes to finish up. So, we got to get back to work, so we do have to wrap things up. But, Julie, I want to say, first off, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to come onto the show. And thank you for taking a leap in a world that doesn't like to talk about what you do, but it's needed. So I appreciate what you do, and I appreciate that you took that leap to start Split Second Strategies and continue to grow all of us here in Omaha.
Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Of course. And of course, listeners, thank you for tuning in. We have had a wonderful edition of the UIA Trusted Partners podcast. Of course, there'll be more coming up next time.